What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Danny and Bush coming at you with a brand new installment, a brand new series, as Danny would say, to the channel. What we're doing here is we're basically going to be helping you guys build your Dynasty roster, build your Dynasty. In a sense, we're going to be kind of grading your teams. A number of you guys have asked us questions in the Discord. If you want a chance to have this happen to your team, you could go ahead and join the Discord in the description. It's totally free to do. You don't need to sign up for anything or pay for anything. Basically, you guys had asked us questions. Maybe you have this pick in a rookie draft. You want to know, based on your current roster, which direction you want to go with that pick, or if you just want us to grade your team overall. So we got a couple of different situations here today to go through, and then we'll definitely be running this series maybe on a weekly basis, bi-weekly basis going forward as we get into prime Dynasty season.
Yeah, for sure. As Corey mentioned, we have about 6 or so teams that we're going to be talking about today. Going to be going really over their roster, examining potential moves, maybe giving a grade, all that good stuff. And then to finalize the end of the video, we're actually going to be talking about our own leagues, talking about our own teams. We actually both made our own separate trades today. So we're going to be talking about that, kind of getting you guys a little food for thought, just to kind of see how you can organize a type of structural deal in whatever league you're in. That being said, anything else you want to say before we head into the intro?
Before we get into the intro, make sure you guys like this video. It takes 2 seconds, helps us out tremendously. Comment any of your thoughts down below. If you want your own Dynasty advice about your own team, you can leave whatever information down there below, and we'll help you answer that as best as we can. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're coming at you with Dynasty content. We're going to be getting into redraft season very soon as well. Nonstop. The NFL draft is 3 weeks from today, so we're getting back into the swing of things. It's no longer the dead point of the offseason. Yeah, so let's hit the intro, and then we'll get into the first team.
Okay, so as Corey kind of alluded to before we hit the intro on y'all, we're going to start it off. The first team that we are going to be going over is actually Jheit 19 from the Discord. So he sent over his team, which you guys should be able to see a couple cut-ups on the screen right now. But for a little run over, a quarterback, he's got Justin Herbert, Sam Darnold, and Daniel Jones, I believe. Yeah. For running back, Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift, Antonio Gibson, and Jamal Williams. Wide receivers, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Cortland Sutton, Quintez Cephas, Smokey Brown, Devin Duvernay, and Tyler Johnson. And then at tight end, he's got Mark Andrews, Eric Ebron, and Anthony Ferkser. So right off the bat, he briefly mentioned it's a 14-team full PPR league. He's got a rookie 3 and 4 last year or next year or this year. Sorry, I said every year except for the actual year it applied to. And basically, it's just asking for any suggestions for moves. Basically, where we can attack this roster, where we can really improve it. Because as you guys can see, it's a very loaded roster to begin with, especially for a 14-teamer, but try our best to try to give you some suggestions on how you can actually improve it.
Yeah, so it looks like you can start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex spots. There's no super flex. It looks like it's a 1 quarterback league. So at quarterback, I would say you're just fine. You got Justin Herbert, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones in the 1 quarterback league. You got youth. You got high-end talent with Justin Herbert. You are fine right there. So I wouldn't suggest anything with that position. At running back, you only have Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift, and Antonio Gibson, who are all very good young running backs. But I mean, you might be able to use a little bit more depth than that. Although it looks like a very shallow dynasty league that you're in. Cooper, like Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Cortland Sutton are a great 3-stack at wide receiver. But given that there is 2 flex spots in your league, I think that's probably your weakest point of your roster is your 4th spot. Because as it stands right now, I guess it'd be kind of a toss-up between Smokey Brown and Quintez Cephas. So you have a rookie 3 and a 4. I'm going to have a video in a couple days going over my top rookie sleepers. And there are 2 wide receivers on that list that I would highly suggest. I'm not going to spoil who they are right now just because I want you guys to watch that video. But there's some high upside receivers in the 3rd and 4th round of rookie drafts that you can attack to help solidify your wide receiver 4 position. And some of these receivers might take some time to develop into NFL players. So that's the direction I would go in. I think in terms of moves, though, I think you're fine on your roster. You have a good tight end room, too. There's no real need to upgrade that. I think just swing for upside receivers with your 3 and 4 would be my suggestion.
Yeah, no, I fully agree from that standpoint. The real concern I have here, again, Jamal Williams is an RB4 and a 14-teamer. I think he's not great, but he can do the job for you if you need to play him in a week. He should have a decent-ish type role, especially too. You do have the handcuff to DeAndre Swift in that situation. But from the receiver perspective, Smokey Brown's a little inconsistent. We haven't really seen Queetzes Cephas do anything over the course of a season. I would say, again, at that rookie 3, rookie 4 spot, Corey's going to mention, I'll mention it right now too. This is an absolutely loaded wide receiver draft class, and there are going to be plenty of talents in those 3rd and 4th rounds. So if you can snag up a couple guys to really add to your depth at that spot, I think that'll be the optimal play for you.
I'll say a couple guys just so I don't give away who's in the video, but a guy like Amari Rogers would be a good example of someone that you could grab. Maybe a Tylan Wallace even slips to that 3rd round pick. Maybe you can get even a Diami Brown with that pick. Maybe you can get a Nico Collins, Tamorian Terry. Someone like that would probably be the type of receiver that you want to add. Someone who's got some upside to them. They're not just like Tutu Atwell, who's like 5'5" and like 155 pounds. Not going to do anything for fantasy. So that's the direction I would go. I think your team, honestly, though, is pretty good. I wouldn't be messing around making some moves. The only guy that I'm wary of in Dynasty that's on your team is DeAndre Swift, just because his value, or his perceived value at least, is very, very high right now, right? Because he's coming off of a great rookie season. And I wrote an article for the Fantasy Scouts, if you guys follow me on Twitter, that came out today talking about how I expect DeAndre Swift's volume to increase. But my thing with Swift is that he's going to be in the midst of a rebuild in Detroit, and he might not be as good as we want him to be for the next year or two. So he could be more so like, if we remember, Aaron Jones, for example, wasn't really a breakout running back right away. It took him like 2-3 years to actually break out. And it could be, we could see something like that with DeAndre Swift. So if someone's willing to give you like really, really high value for DeAndre Swift, then I honestly might take that. If someone wanted to give you Dobbins straight up for Swift, I would take that in a heartbeat.
I'd keep Swift personally for that price. But given the perceived quote unquote lack of value of a guy like, we'll just say a running back position, I don't know, people really want to dog on guys like Derrick Henry. People want to dog on Ezekiel Elliott. There's going to be somebody out there that has DeAndre Swift ahead of those guys in Dynasty. If you can get one of those guys in a piece for Swift,
you can get Derrick Henry straight up for him.
I think you could. That's why I'm saying that.
Borderline, yeah. Like you might be able to swing a 3rd round pick in DeAndre Swift for Derrick Henry.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, if
your team is very good. You can compete this year. So like I don't hate that at all if you were to try and pull something off like that. But I wouldn't get too cute unless you can really upgrade from Swift, and Swift is the guy that I would use to try and upgrade. Then I wouldn't get too cute with it, because I think you don't want to sell him at like a loss, obviously, because his value is very high right now, as well as his perceived value. I
mean, I personally prefer Swift to Gibson, but like from a perceived value standpoint, I do agree with you. There is a little bit of risk there. I do view the situation similar to Aaron Jones. He's never going to be, at least for this year, a 300 touch back. He's going to be probably in that 200 to 230 type range. However, I still think his production on that is going to be super efficient. It's going to be super good. We saw this past year, he had 46 catches, 60 targets as a rookie. Expect that to keep continuing. But I do agree. If you can pull off a trade for one of these older running backs that people just want to throw off the cliff because they're quote unquote 26, 27 years old, they've got nothing in the tank. With that type of win now type roster and a 14-teamer, go after the bag. Go after that cash. Go make your money.
Or DeAndre Swift?
Chubb.
Yeah. I think you could probably get Nick Chubb straight up for him.
Probably could.
Especially if the team is like a rebuilding team or something like that. I think you could definitely pull something like that off.
Chubb's currently my RB6 in Dynasty, so. Yeah. So, and Swift is currently my 12, and then that's without knowing where the rookies land right now. If the rookies land in optimal spots, he probably would be close to around 13, 14 maybe. So, that being said, hopefully you got enough out of that. We're going to move on to the next team, and that is going to be Takaiden. So this is a 1 quarterback IDP full PPR league. He also has on top of this team the rookie 101 and 107 for this year. So right off the bat, the 101 and 107 is a really nice spot to be. You always want to have a couple draft picks because it really keeps you engaged during that rookie draft. Trust me, it's a thrilling feeling. So let's go through the team. Quarterback, he's got Justin Herbert, Mitch Trubisky, Sam Darnold, Cam Newton, and Matt Ryan. Our running back, another Akers sighting, another DeAndre Swift sighting. Kerryon Johnson, Mike Boone, and Anthony McFarland. A wide receiver, he's got Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, T. Higgins, Devin Funchess, Anthony Miller, Marquez Callaway, and Randall Cobb at wide receiver. At tight end, he's got Tyler Higbee, Adam Troutman, and Chris Herndon. Defenses, he's got Denver Broncos and the 49ers.
Hey,
And then
you got defenses and IDP in one league. That is really weird.
That is how you set the tone, baby. And he's got Darius Leonard and CJ Mosley. So right off the bat, I mean, you got a win now ready type roster with the 101 and the 107. That's what I'm getting. The only concern I have, I think you're fine at most positions, maybe a little weak at tight end and bad at running back depth. Aside from that, your receivers are just one of the most stacked thing I've seen. Quarterback, you got 3 starters. Actually,
it's a one quarterback league too, right? So
yeah.
The way I look at this roster, I think there's a very clear 101 for you. It's whatever running back you think is the 101, whether it's Najee Harris. Danny, you would recommend he takes Najee Harris. I would recommend he takes Travis Etienne. The truth is that it's only going to matter on landing spot. I am going to imagine that once the draft actually happens, me and you will probably have the same running back.
Yeah.
And we won't be as different as we are right now. And then obviously that could happen where they both get in good landing spots, and then we're still divided. But I think your 101 has to be a running back just because you only have Cam Akers and DeAndre Swift that are startable running backs. The rest of your guys are more so upside swings, handcuffs, and stuff like that. So we don't know how many guys can he start. He has 2 running backs that he can start, and he has 2 flex positions, right? So if you get a Najee Harris, for example, let's say he goes to the Steelers, then you can start Najee Harris as your flex, and he's like very, very solid in that respect. So I think running back is definitely where you go with the 101, and then the 107 in a 1 quarterback league. I'm not really sure which direction I would go with that.
Pitts, if he's there. Right off the bat.
Yeah. If you got Higbee, Troutman, and Herndon as your best tight ends, I don't think Pitts would be there at 107 in a 1 quarterback league, though, personally.
Maybe not. And like, again, worst case scenario, if you have to take a receiver, perfectly fine, because the receivers in that range are going to be stacked anyways. Let's just go over receiving core real quick. I mean, Ridley, McLaurin, DJ Moore, and T. Higgins is just absolutely ludicrous. Like insanity. You are set at that spot. But again, you guys are going to see in a video coming up, attacking your dynasty draft, attacking your rookie draft. Don't just sway away from a position because you're loaded at that spot. Don't draft for need is what I'm saying in your rookie draft. If you see that a receiver is a tier above the next running back and you feel like you need a running back, just take the receiver and worry about the need after. You can always trade to fill your need. Draft your rookie drafts for the best available talent.
Yeah, don't go into your rookie draft at 107. And this is probably, in a 1 quarterback league, this is probably the type of decision you'd be faced with. Don't take Michael Carter over Rashad Bateman or over Jalen Waddle because he's a running back. Like, do not do that, because I can tell you right now, as much as I like Michael Carter, there's no way I could take him over those guys.
Yeah, when you end up taking Keyshawn Vaughn over Justin Jefferson,
Yeah, exactly, which a lot of people did last year. So yeah. So as far as your picks are concerned, I would say definitely come away with a running back with that 101, because you're going to have your pick of the litter. And I'm sure one of these running backs is going to get a good enough landing spot that you're going to know which one, Harris or Etienne, is the guy to go with. Probably not Javonte Williams with that pick, but the 107 specifically, I would just say stack a board. Maybe you want to trust us for that part of it. I would say your best option at 107 would be either Javonte Williams or Kyle Pitts. I don't think either of those guys will be there personally. So you're probably looking at a wide receiver like Jalen Waddle or Rashad Bateman. Or if you even wanted to add a quarterback, maybe you could do that. Just because
I wouldn't that early.
I probably wouldn't that early either. But if Justin Fields is a San Francisco 49er, how early does he go in a 1 quarterback draft?
Probably late first. But we also keep this in mind. Where would a Micah Parsons go? Because we're not even acknowledging that it is an IDP.
I have never played in an IDP, so I'm not qualified to give you any advice about an IDP. So I have no idea how that works. I
wish I was more qualified to know, because like if in IDP leagues, people are saying that Micah Parsons is like a top 5 pick. We're saying that Rashad Bateman would be like the best available player at 107 and a 1 QB. But then we don't even factor in like where do defensive players go to replace those quarterbacks that we'd be missing out from a super flex type of ADP. So
yeah, I mean, we don't have there's not like a superstar player on defense in this draft. I guess Micah Parsons is probably the closest thing to an IDP like superstar in this draft. So maybe he would go before that 107 spot. I have no idea because I don't play in IDP leagues. So
me neither.
If a defensive player is of value of that pick, maybe you know more than I do, then go ahead with that defensive player if you need it. But I mean, you have is it CJ Mosley or is it
CJ Mosley? Yeah,
CJ Mosley and Darius Leonard. I suppose he could get a little bit better at a linebacker. You have Darius Leonard, who's obviously a stud, but CJ Mosley's meh.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm not too qualified in that regard, but if Parsons is going in that top 5 and it allows you to get a better receiver at that 107, I mean, more power to you. So with that being said, hopefully it helped you out. We're going to go on to the next team, and that's going to be Dunny. So that's a 12-team Superflex full PPR he has here, and he wants us to just basically evaluate his team, see what type of moves he can do, standard type of stuff. His precursor here is that he's thinking about trying to trade for a second quarterback like Dak Prescott using Kirk Cousins and maybe a piece from his roster. So going over the roster he currently has right now, he's got Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, and Josh Rosen at quarterback. Very nice. At running back, he's got JT, Joe Mixon, Miles Sanders, J.K. Dobbins, Boston Scott, Mike Boone, and DJ Dallas. A wide receiver, you got Allen Robinson, DJ Moore, CeeDee Lamb. Is that Terry McLaurin? I'm just going to assume it is.
Yes, it is Terry McLaurin, yes.
Robert Woods, Jerry Jeudy, Michael Pittman, Andy Isabella, Brian Edwards, and Russell Gage. And then at tight end, you got Dallas Goedert, Drew Sample, and Eric Ebron. So right off the bat, I would agree with you. You said that your biggest weakness would be a quarterback too. I don't mind Cousins. I think he can get the job done for you.
And Jared Goff is a fine quarterback 3. Should be a starter at least. If not for this year, he's also a former first overall pick. He should get another opportunity, maybe even after Detroit if they dump him off this year. So Cousins and Goff are a fine QB 2 and 3. It's not like you're screwed with those guys because Cousins should be secure in a starting role for another 2 to 3 years. Goff for at least 1 to 2 years. And then he's still young, obviously, too. But you have JT, Mixon, Sanders, and Dobbins. So I would say you have a 4-stack of running backs. You're quite solid in that area. I don't think you really have any needs there. Same goes for the wide receivers that you have, and your tight ends are pretty solid as well. So, yeah, I agree with Danny. I think second quarterback would probably be your biggest need. Maybe if you wanted to try and upgrade from Dallas Goedert at tight end, you could consider that your biggest need as well. But I think your roster overall is very solid. It's very well-rounded. So if you did want to make an upgrade move, like, for example, taking a Kirk Cousins, and you mentioned Miles Sanders as like your third running back or Joe Mixon potentially as like your fourth running back. If you wanted to take those guys and go after a Dak Prescott, a Josh Allen, a Kyler Murray, a Lamar Jackson, someone in that tier of quarterbacks. I have a big tier from, I think it's 2 to 7 in my Dynasty rankings of guys that I just mentioned right there. So if you wanted to get a guy like that to pair with Patrick Mahomes, and then you have a pretty fearsome 2-stack at quarterback in a Superflex league, I don't mind that move at all. I think that's probably pretty feasible. And if you were to do something like that, you'd still have JT, one of Mixon or Sanders, and J.K. Dobbins as your running backs. You'd probably need to fill out some more of your depth with guys only like Boston Scott, Mike Boone, and DJ Dallas as like your fourth running back. So you'd probably need to make a subsequent move, whether it's a draft pick or trading for another running back, maybe using one of your receivers to fill out a fourth running back spot. But that's why you trade in Dynasty, right? That's why you don't draft for need, like Danny said. So I personally would make a move like that. I would try and take a Kirk Cousins and a Miles Sanders or a Joe Mixon, go after Kyler Murray, go after Dak Prescott, go after even Justin Herbert potentially, if you can get like a pick back or something like that. I think that would also be fine.
Heck, like even if it doesn't even have to be like Miles Sanders, even if you put in like, I don't know, would you do like Jeudy and Cousins for like Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah,
probably do something like that as well.
Something like that. I think, that you
that's probably be the tier difference.
But the problem with trading receivers in Dynasty is that it's so hard to do unless you're like really giving someone a deal. I've noticed because everyone knows running backs and quarterbacks are scarce in the Superflex league. So trading a running back for them would really go a long way. You could really get grade very easily. And especially with someone like Mixon and Sanders, I have a lot of question marks about those guys from a Dynasty perspective. So I wouldn't mind moving those guys altogether, just let alone the fact that you're going to upgrade a significant position as well. Dobbins and JT to me are like two like locked and loaded top 10 Dynasty running backs in my rankings. So those two guys I would stand pat with, especially some of your top end receivers as well. So overall, you have a very well-rounded roster. I think that is definitely your biggest need, though, as Danny said. So I definitely would advise doing something like that, asking around, seeing who has Prescott, seeing who has Murray, seeing who has Lamar. And whoever else you're looking at.
Dude, imagine you're able to pull off like a Dak Prescott and your two quarterbacks as your starters are Patrick Mahomes and Dak freaking Prescott.
What do you think of trading for Watson with this team?
Well, I mean, it depends what it would cost. I'd probably be
if you could trade Kirk Cousins and Jerry Jeudy for Deshaun Watson, would you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do that? Okay, what if you had to give up like a pick too? like a third rounder or second rounder. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, third rounder easily depends on what second. If it's like the 201,
it's like a 205, let's say. I think I would still do it. I think
probably do it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, basically
Jeudy
what you're
doesn't
saying,
mean anything to your roster. And as good of a prospect as Jerry Jeudy is, as good of a receiver as he is, he's like your fifth guy right now, sixth guy. So it really doesn't matter where he goes.
Basically, what you're saying is like I think the absolute worst case scenario for Watson right now is he's suspended for like we'll just say worst case scenario he's suspended for the 2022 season or 2021 season. You're still getting what, a 26-year-old quarterback who's shown to be a top 5 overall asset in his prime coming back the year after. I think it's worth the risk at that point. And for the price of a Jeudy, Cousins, and let's just say 205, I'm willing to take the shot on that type of upside because I know if Watson doesn't get ruled out this year or misses like 4 games,
I think what is probably
he's going to be able to win you a game.
Antonio Brown or Zeke Elliott got for in terms of the suspension. He's probably going to get. I think AB got 8 games, right? So I think that's probably what you're looking at for Watson. I think that would probably be reasonable. So if he has an 8-game suspension and you're able to get him at a huge discount, that's fine. And I know you have a team that's ready to compete now, but worst case scenario, you trade Cousins in that package, you could still start Jared Goff as your second quarterback for those 8 games.
Yeah, no, exactly. And hopefully, like, again, knock on wood, nothing happens from the injury standpoint, but you can manage. And not to mention, you got the requisite depth where if a quarterback went down on your team, okay, I could plug in a Pittman
in my super flex.
Or like he'd be in the offer, but like you could start like a Pittman or Woods or like you know what I'm saying? You got guys like that you can plug in when you need. So I'm not too worried. And because you have the available depth, I would go after that superstar level type quarterback to fix up that quarterback 2 spot. So hopefully you got value from that. Let's move on to R_Ravers team from the Discord. So he says here that it's I like these scoring settings. So it's a 12 team, 2 tight end start, 1.75 tight end premium, 1.5 PPR premium for running backs, and then a full PPR for wide receivers. So basically you got the tier there. You got the receivers getting 1 point for every reception, running backs getting 1.5, and then the tight ends getting 1.75. So a little spicy. I like I like that kind of scoring, you know.
So basically the way this breaks down is tight ends are more valuable than receivers in this scoring format, clearly, because there's 2 tight ends and it's a tight end premium, 1.75 PPR. And running backs are significantly valuable in this format. 1.5 PPR per running backs, especially pass catching running backs.
Especially the ones he has.
Let's go over his team real quick. So he has Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Baker Mayfield as his quarterbacks. Pretty solid. He didn't actually say if it was a super flex or not. I'm assuming it's a super flex. I can't actually see. Does it have it is a super flex. Okay.
Yeah, I'm assuming.
So he does have a super flex. He's got Mahomes, Cousins, Mayfield. That's perfectly fine for what you got there. Running backs, and remember, this is 1.5 PPR for these running backs. He has Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, and DeAndre Swift. I'm pretty sure those guys catch some passes. And then he has Kerryon Johnson and Adrian Peterson as his 4th and 5th running back, so not a lot of depth there, though. Wide receiver-wise, he has DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, is this Curtis Samuel? Yeah, it's Curtis Samuel. And then he also has Cole Beasley, Deshaun Jackson, Smokey Brown, Nelson Aguilar, and Rashard Higgins. So not great receivers, but again, this is probably the lowest valued receiver position in this.
Not great receivers from already established receivers.
Right. And I'll get to that in a second. His tight end currently is Eric Ebron, right? And it is a 2 tight end start league. But in this league, you already drafted rookies, right? So he said they drafted rookies in the startup, and these were the rookies that he drafted for his team. He's got Kyle Pitts, so that's his second tight end, or I guess it'd be his first tight end. He has Devontae Smith, Elijah Moore, Amari Rogers, Tutu Atwell, Nico Collins, and Trey Sermon. So he came away with quite a good haul of he also has Hunter Henry on his roster. I didn't even see that when I was filling this in. So he has Hunter Henry, Kyle Pitts, and Eric Ebron as his tight ends. Nonetheless, he's got a pretty solid squad, I would say. This is a kind of a grade my team type of thing. You have, based on the value of your scoring, you have 2 tight ends and a 1.75 tight end premium. You have Kyle Pitts, who we would both agree is a top 5 tight end asset.
Yes.
Right now, and he hasn't played a single NFL snap yet. And we don't even know what team he's going to yet. And you have Hunter Henry, who should be a very solid tight end, and you also have Eric Ebron. So between those guys, you can definitely piece together 2 startable tight ends every single week, in my opinion. Even if Kyle Pitts, for example, has a bit of a down rookie season, you're forced to start Hunter Henry and Eric Ebron for his rookie season. I think he can definitely manage it. Those guys, especially in a PPR league, Eric Ebron caught a lot of passes last year at the tight end position. Not a lot of people notice how good he was actually from a fantasy perspective. I'm pretty sure he finishes like top 10 tight end. So he's a guy that's pretty underappreciated in dynasty leagues in general. So if you're in need of a tight end, you don't really want to spend up at it or something, or you have a guy like Kyle Pitts and you need some time for him to acclimate to the NFL, I would recommend going to get someone like Eric Ebron because he's a guy that, at least for the next year or two, should be pretty valuable in dynasty leagues.
Yeah, I mean, people don't talk about it. In 15 games last year, he had 91 targets, 56 receptions, nearly 560 yards, and how many touchdowns does it give or take here?
I think he only had like 5 or 6 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken.
But still, regardless, he had, doesn't say it, whatever. But with that being said, I mean, like he's a quality asset that nobody talks about. Yeah, and you mentioned, I mean, Kyle Pitts is an absolute freak of nature. We were talking about it before we recorded here, and I basically said, like, out of all the out of all the pass catchers in this entire draft, like, Kyle Pitts is easily my first, which is crazy to say because I love Devonta. I love Jamar Chase. I'm taking Kyle Pitts before them, and especially in a 1.7, keeping it 1.7 premium right now for reference for a tight end. That would have Kyle Pitts as like a 2-3 turn type of value in terms of what I think. What I would expect him to do.
Tight end premium compared to a 1 PPR for wide receivers. For a tight end, you basically need like a 50 reception season from a tight end is the equivalent of like an 80 reception season from a wide receiver, right? Yeah. So, and 50 receptions out of Kyle Pitts, I think you do that as a rookie easily. So
easily, I think 70 as a rookie. I
think Kyle Pitts is probably going to finish the top 12 tight end as a rookie, which is, I mean, it might not be a bold take, but it hasn't happened in a while for a rookie tight end. It hasn't happened since Evan Ingram. So, I think your team overall is very balanced. I think in terms of moves that you can make, I don't really see too many that you can make. If you can, I would shore up some of your running back depth because after Eckler, Aaron Jones, and DeAndre Swift, you don't really have a fourth guy that you could put into your roster if need be. If you wanted to go out and inquire on somebody like maybe a Ronald Jones or a Damian Harris, maybe someone in that range, it's a 1.5 PPR. Maybe you wanted to go after someone like James White, maybe. I think that could be a formidable fourth piece, maybe a Chase Edmonds, even someone like that. I think that could be a situation that you could shore up some of your running back depth because I do think if one of those guys were to get injured, you'd be a little shorthanded at the running back position. But overall, I think your receivers are fine. I think your quarterbacks are fine. Tight ends, you're looking solid. Running back depth is really the only area that I'm a little bit worried about if I was you. So I would maybe see if you could inquire about running back, acquiring a fourth running back. I'm not really sure what piece you would use to move that. If you could use maybe Cole Beasley and see if you could get a running back out of him, or some of your rookies that you have here. You drafted Trey Sermon, who's a fourth running back, but we got to know where he gets drafted. Obviously, maybe you can move one of these rookie receivers. So you drafted Kyle Pitt or Devontae Smith, Elijah Moore, Amari Rodgers, and Nico Collins. Maybe you can move one of those guys for a rookie running back in this draft class. Maybe like try and move Amari Rodgers for like a Elijah Mitchell or something like that, just to give you a little bit more insurance at the running back position.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Just looking at it real quick. Did you mention AJ Brown? Oh no, that's Antonio Brown. Okay. Looking at the roster.
Oh yeah, I must have missed him. Yeah, he has Antonio Brown.
He has Antonio Brown, Tyrell Williams.
Yeah, I just didn't list him because he's irrelevant.
Oh, respect. But yeah, Antonio Brown as well. So with that being said, again, hopefully we can provide you value. Hopefully you got enough from that, and we'll move on to the next team, and that's going to be Hunter's team, which is a 12-team super flex. He's basically asking who he should be targeting with his draft picks, and that would be the 105 and the 205 in his rookie draft. So outlining his roster that he has currently. At quarterback, he's got Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Ryan Tannehill, Taylor Henneke, Jarrett Stidham, Kyle Allen, and Will Grier. At running back, he's got Jonathan Taylor, James Conner, Zach Moss, Jerick McKinnon, Anthony McFarland, Carlos Hyde, Jordan Howard, Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown, J.J. Taylor, and Eno Benjamin. Wide receiver, he's got Will Fuller, Adam Thielen, Kenny Galladay, A.J. Brown, Robert Woods,
you can just stop there at wide receiver.
That's ridiculous.
His wide receiver room stacked next.
Tight end, Andrews, Tunyon, Herndon, and Troutman. So right off the bat,
there's a clear weakness, right? Like it's pretty
Yes.
obvious that
It's running back.
high-end running back is your weakness because you have some good depth guys, but Jonathan Taylor is the only guy on your roster that I feel comfortable starting every single week because James Conner is your second best running back, and James Conner currently is not signed by an NFL team right now. Zach Moss right now would be your second best running back, and that is a scary sight for everybody involved. So that 105 pick in a super flex league is earmarked for Travis Etienne, in my opinion, because
or Harris. Yep.
Or Harris. I don't think Najee Harris in any league that you're going to be in is going to get to 105. So I would say Travis Etienne or Javonte Williams, depending on landing spots, are probably the guy that you're targeting with that 105. And I don't think I would go in any other direction if I was you, because you have great quarterbacks. You have Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Ryan Tannehill. You do not need a quarterback in a super flex league at the 105. And then wide receivers, we already mentioned, as like I think it's a little bit of a reach to take a wide receiver at 105 in general, let alone with the wide receiver core that you have. And at tight end, too, you have Andrews, Tonyan already, who are both really good startable tight ends, so you don't really need
Troutman
either. And you have Troutman, who's a nice upside piece. Herndon maybe has some upside, so you're good at that position as well. I think easily for me, your biggest need is at the 105, I would be targeting a running back. And at the 205, I'd be targeting a running back as well, but I wouldn't reach on one. So at the 205, probably what you're looking for is a guy like Kenneth Gainwell or Michael Carter. If they're there, maybe if Trey Sermon gets some good draft capital. I really like Elijah Mitchell and Khalil Herbert, but I don't think I would pick them that high. Maybe you want to trade back and go after someone like that, unless they get super high draft capital, great landing spot as well. That 205 pick, I would try and get a running back with that pick, but I wouldn't force it either.
Yeah, and just looking at it right now, at that 205, try for a running back if you can, and if they're in the same tiers of receivers available. However, if you're looking at 205, and a guy like Elijah Moore, who just got taken 22nd overall by the Tennessee Titans, is staring you in the face, don't take a running back over him. Just take the receiver. I know, I get it. Your receivers are ridiculous, but take Elijah Moore. Promise me that. Promise me that you're just going to take the best available player, and you're not going to worry about just taking a running back to take a running back, because that's how you end up with a guy, like I mentioned earlier, in Keyshawn Vaughn. So with that being said, again, the rest of your roster is filth. It's filth. It's a fantastic team. We didn't even mention the quarterbacks. Mahomes,
your quarterbacks are going to put up like 70 points a week at minimum. So I think another thing too that I might do if I didn't want to be handcuffed in the draft is I might move one of these receivers now.
Yeah, I mean,
I might take Kenny Golladay, who just got a big contract, or Adam Thielen, who is getting a bit older. Not even for a pick. I might try and get a running back with him if I can. But the problem with that is that it's a receiver, right? He has less value intrinsically because of scarcity and whatnot. That if you were to trade Kenny Golladay, what kind of running back can you get in return for Kenny Golladay, right? Like you probably can't get anyone much better than like Josh Jacobs for Kenny Golladay.
I would still take Jacobs over him, yeah.
I would too, but I think that's probably the value point that you're looking at. Maybe someone in the low end. Like, I don't think you could get Clyde Edwards-Helaire for Kenny Golladay or anything like that.
Yeah, probably like the Chris Carson, Kareem Hunt, Ronald Jones type area.
Yeah, so if you wanted to trade Golladay or something like that for one of those guys, maybe you could do that just so you're not hamstrung. But I also wouldn't force it either. So if you can, I would try and add a running back before the draft. It doesn't even have to be someone that high end, too. It could be someone a bit lower. Maybe you want to add like a Leonard Fournette or something like that. You could probably get something like that done. But yeah, I would focus on running back because I think you're going to add your RB2 at 105 anyway. Whether it's Travis Etienne, Najee Harris, or Javonte Williams, I think that's the place you're definitely looking at for that pick.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. So with that being said, hopefully got the value. I know I've said that for every team, but just want to make sure you guys are enjoying. We're going to head on to the next team. And that next team is going to be, let me scroll down real quick. It's going to be Paulison MJ30. So you guys can basically just see on the screen. So he briefly mentioned before going through the team, he has an offer available where he can pick up the 102, so the second overall pick in his rookie draft, for his Deshaun Watson. Let's just talk about that potential deal, what side we're on, what we would prefer, and why we're actually both in agreement that we would prefer the 102 at this current juncture over Deshaun Watson. Now, we mentioned earlier, Deshaun Watson, we're not a guy that we're just panic selling. We're not completely off board like some people in the industry.
It's the pick number, why it's important.
It's the pick number. And the reason why they pick 102 is an asset that I currently would rather have over Deshaun Watson is that we both view that any of the top 4 quarterbacks picked by San Francisco is going to be a top 10 dynasty quarterback. We've already stated multiple times that Trevor Lawrence is also going to be a top 10 dynasty quarterback. So if you're looking at it from a figurative standpoint, that at the 102, you're guaranteed a top 10 dynasty quarterback right now for what Deshaun Watson is. And don't get me wrong, Deshaun Watson, when he doesn't have this stuff going on, is a top 6 or so overall dynasty quarterback. But with the legal issues, with the potential suspension, with everything going on right now, not to mention you're also getting a little bit younger at the position as an added benefit, I would take the deal. I would take a Justin Fields in San Francisco. I would take a Trey Lance in San Francisco.
Could even be Trevor Lawrence at 102 if the consensus becomes if Justin Fields gets drafted by San Francisco that he's the 101, and then Trevor Lawrence at Jacksonville is the 102. I would take either of those guys over Deshaun Watson right now, but that is a hard line in the sand I'm drawing. I would not sell him for any cheaper than what you have listed right there. 102 in a super flex, the lowest I would sell Deshaun Watson for. I would not take Zach Wilson as a New York Jet over Deshaun Watson right now. I would not take Trey Lance or Justin Fields or Mac Jones if he's a San Francisco 49er. There's your real doomsday scenario. Is if the 49ers actually take Mac Jones, then you might be really screwed at the 102 because I would not take Mac Jones at the 102.
Yeah, please tell me. If Mac Jones goes 102, do not take him at the 102. Just promise me that. Any other quarterback goes to San Francisco in the top 4, wheels up. But with that being said, we can just quickly look at his roster and kind of see anything else we might notice aside from that trade. So do the trade, first of all. Second of all, looking at the roster. So currently he's got Deshaun Watson in with Matthew Stafford as the super flex. Running backs, Gio Bernard, Dalvin Cook.
He's got Clyde on his bench, so he'd probably be his RB2 behind Cook.
Yeah, fair. Overall, I mean, you guys can see the pictures. I don't really have to go through it. We kind of didn't really outline it, but it's a really good overall team. You can add that 102, get your quarterback. Aside from that, I mean, I like the roster as it is. Maybe you can add to
we also forgot to mention he has Saquon on IR too. So he has Saquon, Dalvin Cook, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire as his running back. So his team is very good.
Yeah.
His quarterbacks honestly only need to be a compliment to his running backs because his running backs can carry his team. So if you are to trade someone like that, you can afford to take a risk at with Deshaun Watson. The problem with Deshaun Watson, anybody who has Deshaun Watson in a dynasty league right now, is that you're taking a risk either way. Whether you're holding him or whether you're selling him, you're taking a risk either way because to hold him is the risk that all of these like 20-something odd allegations don't result in anything significant like a suspension, exempt list, I don't know, potential like actual criminal sentencing. Like that's the worst case scenario, obviously, is that he goes to like prison for this. But as of right now, my hunch tells me that this is probably an 8 to 10 game suspension that he's looking at. And that is not as bad as probably a lot of people would assume it would be, right? And if that's how you look at it, if you think it's probably an 8 to 10 game suspension at the most, then any value that you can get for Deshaun Watson right now, take advantage of it because there's going to be people who are not selling for the 102. They'll take a top 6 dynasty rookie pick for him. And I would easily take that, take Deshaun Watson over like the 105.
There are probably going to be people that say, oh yeah, give me 107 and 204. And you take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay. Worst case scenario. Let's just say hypothetically, we mentioned it. He misses this year. You would be getting back next year a guy who's 26 going on 27 that has already shown he could be a top 5 quarterback in
already
fantasy
under
football.
contract.
Already under contract and already shown that he's got the Konami code factor. He's got the legs. He's got the big arm. So no matter what, even if he gets traded, he's going to bring those tangible assets to whatever team acquires him. Regardless if the scheme's bad, he can make plays on his own right. So if you're selling for that cheap, hold them. Like there are going to be people that are scared. Just hold them. Trust the process at that point. Do not just sell them to sell them. Sell them because somebody's making an adequate and very fair offer to you in your own right. And if there are people in your league that are panic selling Deshaun Watson right now, inquire about them. See what's happening. See what you can get him for. Because quite frankly, there's going to be people that are going to be panicked. You're going to see Twitter saying, sell Deshaun Watson now and like all caps.
I've seen it already. And there's also going to be people on the other side of the fence too that won't sell Deshaun Watson for whatever reason. They're like, yeah, I'm just going to hold. And like they might get screwed. So like I said, either way, you're taking a risk. Whether he gets like, because the worst case scenario, like I mentioned, is like this actually becomes a criminal sentencing. And we see a Michael Vick type situation where Deshaun Watson might actually go to prison over this. But as of right now, I don't see that as likely. I see it more likely as this is solved in a civil manner and Deshaun Watson gets an 8 to 10 game suspension. And then after that, everyone moves on. And from a fantasy perspective, we don't have to worry about this with Deshaun Watson anymore. So that's kind of how I would handle the Deshaun Watson situation. If we're talking about picks, 102 is the minimum pick that I would need. I need either the 101 or the 102 to sell Deshaun Watson. Anything lower than that, I'm holding. But quickly, you mentioned before this that we made our own trades. We'll go over that real quick, and then we'll get out of here. We're both in the same league. This is the trade that we made in the same league. Do you want to go over my trade first or yours?
Well, I mean, yours shows up first in the feed, so we'll just go over yours. So you could take it away there.
Right. So basically, the trade that I made was last year I went for broke, unfortunately, and I busted basically, and I sold Saquon Barkley during his ACL tear, right? Because I couldn't use him, obviously, and I was trying to make the playoffs and keep going in that league and potentially win the championship. So I sold Saquon Barkley, and part of that deal was Michael Thomas, who, I mean, I think it's well documented that I don't like the New Orleans Saints or Michael Thomas. So I just don't want this guy on my team. You call it like bad strategy all you want. I don't want a New Orleans Saints player named Michael Thomas on my team because I don't like the player. I like to have fun watching my team on Sundays, and watching Michael Thomas is not part of that. So I sold Michael Thomas and Chase Edmonds, who right now is currently the starting running back for the Arizona Cardinals. But me and you both believe that's not going to last. They're going to add a guy, whether it's during the draft, after the draft, and free agency. They're going to add somebody to the backfield. They're not just going to give Chase Edmonds a 15 to 20 touch workload. I think he's going to stay in his original role, his 10 touch back role that he's going to have. And they're going to add either a 2-down banger to him, or they're going to add a feature back like a Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, something like that.
Yeah, I think his best case scenario from the draft perspective would be them adding like a Michael Carter. I think like the worst case scenario, again, they get their hands on like a Harris, a Williams, an Etienne. I can very well see if the corners are off the board by 16, Kyle Pitts is off the board, they don't know what else to do. They just say, oh, you know what? We don't have a running back right now. We lost Kenyon Drake. Why not get a Najee Harris at 16?
It's Etienne. If they pick a running back at 16, it will be Etienne.
You think so?
Yes. Because Steve Keim was like talking to him at his pro day, like after his workout, like immediately went up to him and stuff. I think they might take him, dude. I seriously think they're going to take him.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
He will be my RB1 if he's an Arizona Cardinal. That's all I'm going to say. But
sure.
Yeah, I mean, he still is my RB1.
I mean,
anyway, what I traded those guys for, Michael Thomas and Chase Edmonds, I traded them for the 105 and the 111, right? Was it 110?
111. 111.
Yeah, so the 111 and the 105. I don't really want to tell you my intentions with the pick because you're in the league, but for the sake of the viewers, I'm going to say that I'm targeting probably a wide receiver with the 111 pick and probably a running back, either Travis Etienne or Javonte Williams with the 105.
Whichever one I don't
potentially a quarterback because I do have some youth problems at the quarterback position with Matt Ryan.
Yeah, you know what would be hilarious from this? If Harris and Etienne both got really good landing spots.
And I don't get either.
No. If I got Harris at 4, and then Etienne's great landing spot was the Cardinals, and you end up basically trading the backup for the Cardinals for the starter for the Cardinals.
That would be pretty funny, but to be honest, if let's say the Harris goes to the Steelers and Etienne goes to the Cardinals, I don't think either of them are getting to 105.
That is fair. Then I'll just.
I think Etienne would go before 105 if he was an Arizona Cardinal.
So that'd be a blessed spot for me because.
See, what I'm hoping for is that he goes to like the Jets, which people would assume is a bad landing spot, but it's actually a good landing spot for Etienne given the scheme that they're going to run.
That's fair. So you guys can leave your comments down below which side you prefer. Bush's side being the 2 picks in the 105 and the 111, and then Lucas's side being Michael Thomas.
I didn't mention real quick that I have great receiving depth. So Michael Thomas is not an issue for me to lose. I still have Amari Cooper. I still have Stephon Diggs. I still have Tyler Lockett. I still have like a number of other just like tertiary pieces like Mike Williams and Henry Ruggs and Paris Campbell, I believe I have too. So like I have a number of guys in that league that can be serviceable at the receiver position. So it's not a big deal that I lost Michael Thomas. The bigger picture was me trying to get a second running back because currently my RB2 is Raheem Mostert behind Austin Eckler.
Yeah, 100%. You outlined it. I'm trying to find quickly now my tweet from earlier for context. I don't really feel like fully explaining it. Okay, so as you guys can see here, this would be the second trade that I did, and that would be again with Lucas, the boy Lucas. A little shout out right there. Let me close my DMs real quick. And that's going to be so for context, for my situation. Strong at running back. Bush mentioned he's strong at receiver. Well, I'm strong at running back. I have CMC, Zeke, and Carson still on this roster, and I didn't have a quarterback 3. My problem last year, again, for reference, this is a team that lost in the championship game. Injuries absolutely decimated me. I was starting one quarterback all year after Dak Prescott went down because I didn't have requisite depth on the bench. For Lucas, again, we mentioned he tanked full year, so he had all these picks. So we both funneled for picks through him. Anyways, you guys can see the trade. So I gave up Alvin Kamara and Marquise Brown in exchange for the 104, the 109, the 211, and the 401. So kind of explaining my rationale again. Wanted to get the depths. I think the pick is going to be the best case scenario to be able to provide that. The way I really look at this is the 104 and the 109 would be for Kamara, and then the 211 and 401 would be for Marquise Brown. The reason why I say that, as much upside
I would take
as
the 211 right now over Marquise Brown. I would say the 401 is honestly with the Kamara side.
Yeah, okay. So let's just say that, because the reason why I was going to say that, because a lot of people would be like, oh, I'd take Marquise Brown over that. With this type of classes coming in, I honestly think I can get a receiver with better value than what Marquise Brown represents compared to what's going to be there out to 11 versus what Marquise Brown is. So that might be a hot take or whatever, but I'm fully prepared for it. And then as far as the picks go, Kamara is fantastic. Kamara is a fantasy superstar, as we all know, as you guys all know. The way I'm looking at it, though, is I need a quarterback 3 or depth. So if 104, if I can get one of those quarterbacks, I will take them. If not, I'm fine with getting a Najee Harris or an ATN, depending on the landing spot. And then the 109 in there, at that type of spot, I don't want to give away too much because you could very well move up. You have the 111. But for the sake of the viewers, as you mentioned, I'm eyeing right now, if a guy like Javonte Williams or Kyle Pitts is there, would be my pick. If not, I'd probably be looking at one of the top receivers, whether it's Jamar Chase or Devonta Smith. So I really like it. Again, I still have the top end talent on my team. Mentioned those other guys. And now I can fully really build out the depth behind it to kind of have sustainability in case I face injury problems again this year. So that was my lesson I learned from last year. Don't be too top heavy. You want to have guys in case the worst case scenario happens. So I'm happy with it. You guys can leave comments down below on both of our trades, which sides you'd rather prefer, your rationale, type of context, situation, whatever you want to talk about. Heck, you want to mention, oh, your hair's looking long. I don't care. Comment down below. Let's get these SEO going. And yeah, anything else you want to mention before we head out today?
No, I'm good. If you guys did enjoy this, make sure you guys like the video, comment any of your thoughts down below, ask us any questions. You literally can ask us anything Dynasty related. We will answer it for you. We are not like a stuck-up YouTube channel that doesn't answer their comments. If you guys go back and look at all of our YouTube comments, we answer every single one of them that require an answer. So ask us any questions, anything you need to know. Maybe you're new to Dynasty. We'll have you covered in a couple weeks with content coming that way, as Danny mentioned. So yeah, subscribe to the channel if you're new and join the Discord if you're not already in there. Totally free to do so. As I mentioned, we're going to be running probably a couple more of these before the draft happens and probably more of them after the draft as well. So with that being said, guys, peace out and enjoy your Friday.
Peace out, y'all.
Why you need the money?